But what is the actual problem? Welcome back to episode 41 of the What If It Works podcast. Today we are diving into problem solving. And this is the question that I have on repeat when I am working with clients, working with teams, doing impact presentations. I will say over and over, but what is the actual problem? So today we're going to get super clear on how you can nail down what the actual problem is so that you can take the steps to create a solution and help people thrive. Let's get into it. There is a point in my impact workshops where I literally have to say to my audience, I'm about to ask you a question, and then I'm about to ask you 10 more questions. You may get a little flustered and get a little frustrated, but it is okay. Let's lean into it. So I am going to walk you through today an example that recently came up with a client of mine where he was so frustrated, but by the end, the solution, the tiny shift that needed to be made was so doable that he was able to make this change before lunch that day. We have our meeting at 9 a.m. And by lunch, the situation was solved. Now, it was not the nicest, easiest, smoothest path to get there, but that's okay. Problem solving isn't always easy. However, I truly believe that problems take up the amount of time we give them. And so when we can lean into what is the actual problem, we can walk away confident in the solutions that we can implement. So I asked my client, what is the problem that you continue to run into that is kind of ruining your culture? And he said, I can tell you right now, it's upper management. And I was like, oh, tell me more. And he says, yep, upper management is inconsistent. One person wants it done one way. One person allows it being done another way. One person doesn't really care at all. Another person wants it exactly a certain specific way. And you better not mess it up or you're going to redo it. He's like, so upper management. And I was like, okay, so what's the actual problem? And he was like, upper management. Okay, we can't fix upper management unless I know what the problem is. So what is the actual problem? And he's like, well, upper management allows things to be inconsistent. And I was like, ooh, okay, that feels like a problem. What kinds of things are allowed inconsistently? So we went down this rabbit hole where he continued to say, well, they keep allowing everybody to do things differently. So I said, so it's not really upper management. It's that as a company, we don't have consistency over our systems. Would you agree with that? And he's like, okay, sure. And I was like, great. So why is that a problem? And he's like, well, because if one person is doing it one way and one person is doing another way and one person is doing it another way, clients are getting different results. Like clients are getting different quality when our work goes out the door. And I was like, ooh, that sounds like a problem. So what is the actual problem? And he said, I told you, it's upper management allowing inconsistencies. And I was like, great. So what is the right way? And he's like, well, that's above my pay grade. I can't tell you that. They need to decide that. And I said, why? You are on the shop floor. You know what kind of quality is expected of your company. So why do we need upper management deciding what the quality level is? Why can't you, as a lead on the floor, decide the quality of the product when it goes out the door? And he's like, well, that's not my job. And I said, is it really the highest guy up? Is it really his job to determine what's quality and what's not? Isn't it your job as a leader on the floor to set the standard? Correct? And he said, well, if I decided to set the standard, then what if it's the wrong standard? And I said, well, why would you set the wrong standard? To which he was getting very flustered. But you can kind of see how this all came down to a systems issue. They were allowing different people within the organization was allowing different things to go out the door. And so we worked with him on what should be the standard, what doesn't leave the building. And he was like, okay, anything that has this, this, or this. And I was like, perfect. So let's start that as the new standard. What do you think would happen if you went to the different departments instead? We are no longer allowing this, or this to go to the next department. So we need to quality control before it goes to the next department. How do you think that would go? And he's like, well, yeah, all of us in the shop agree what the quality is. And I was like, oh, timeout. So all of you in the shop agree what the level of quality you are willing to put out the door. And he's like, yep. And I was like, so what is the actual problem? And he was like, well, I guess it's that we're allowing some things because they'll allow some things. And I said, right, let's let go of upper management. If all of you on the floor, all of you who produce the work, all of you who check over the work, say, here is our level of standard, then does it really upper management have anything to do with this? And he was like, well, no. And I was like, great. So do you think you could walk around, go to each department, and make sure they are aware of these new quality standards? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, and then are you willing to go to upper management and say, we are noticing inconsistencies with our quality. And as department leads, we have decided these things will be redone if they do not meet the mark. Otherwise, we are holding our quality of standards to this level. And he was like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. And I said, and how do you think that information will be received by upper management? And he's like, well, they probably kind of expect us doing that anyways. Yeah, they probably do. So in the beginning, the issue was upper management. In the end, it was we need to hold our standards high and make sure we are clear between all the departments on the shop floor that this is the level of standard we as leads are willing to put forward. Now, the actual problem has nothing to do with upper management and everything to do with clear expectations and following through on what your quality control is. This is why working through problems to truly identify what is the problem we can solve, because you can't solve inconsistent upper management. You could solve different leads having different expectations, right? But that was not the issue here. And so I really want you leaning in. What is the actual problem? And get super clear on the problem and the negative result that is being produced so that you can find a solution and create a positive result. Once you get clear on the actual problem, then you can move into problem solving mode. Now, if you have seen any of my impact presentations or you've been a part of our Lead with Impact series in the past, you know my 2-minute problem solver, which, by the way, I'm going to kind of gatekeep from the podcast community because I really do want you engaging with it at an in-person event. It just is a game changer for how we do problem solving. But I want you to think about, once you've narrowed it down and you've found your problem, how are you going to go interact with someone else within your workplace or within your home about this problem? And I will give you this tip, which is bring it with no emotion and with the sincere desire to find a solution. So my advice for you, if bringing up this problem to someone is tricky, you're going to say, I've noticed, and you're going to give out the negative result that you've noticed. So I've noticed people have been showing up late to work. I've noticed the quality of our product going out the door has been reduced. I've noticed a lot of people gathering in the break room for longer than 15 minutes. These are things you can notice, and this is a result you do not want. So you are simply having a conversation with someone else about what you've noticed, not as, and what are you going to do about it? And we have this problem. How are you going to solve it? Absolutely not. We are going to go forward with, I've noticed this negative result, and I wanted to have a discussion with you about it. You could even ask them, I've noticed this. Have you also noticed that? And then state the expectation or what needs to be happening differently. Something along the lines of, we expect here at work that everybody is on time. We expect that people are respectful of that 15-minute break. What can we do to make sure people are following that expectation? And now you're in a conversation with another individual so that you can work together on this problem solving. Now, I will tell you right now, if you are taking a problem to another individual and you are asking for their advice and they give you any piece of advice or any solution, I want you to think about going all in on that, because this is where we can break trust. I walk up to you as my employee and I say, hey, I've noticed this thing. What do you think about that? What's a solution? And you're like excited because you've also noticed this problem and you are ready. You have an idea ready to go and you share it with me. And I respond with, we did that 2 years ago. It never worked. Oh, that'll never work. We've tried that once before. Oh, no, that's not really how I wanted to handle it. What else can you think of? What are you doing to the trust between the two of you? You are literally shattering it on the ground. And so make sure that you are going to this individual with hopes of finding a solution that they believe in. Because if you already have a solution, then you shouldn't be going to the individual and asking this type of question. Because in my opinion, it is rude to have a solution kind of in your back pocket. And as soon as you ask them and they give you an idea, and then you're like, hey, what about this? And you pull this solution out of your pocket. It really looks like you had that all along and you just wasted their time and energy by asking them to think about it during this conversation. So if you already have a solution, you're going to handle it very differently. It's going to sound a lot like an expectation. You're going to set that up with the what and the why and the how. However, I am talking about when you bring a problem that you've noticed on the floor, you want to ask your lead about it. You say, I've noticed this. What do you think we can do about that? And they say, we could try XYZ. I want you to lean in and say, do you really think that'll solve the problem? And when they say yes, be like, awesome. Okay, how can I support you with doing X, Y, and Z? Right? And now you as a leader are supporting another individual who took action to think of a solution, and you are helping bring that solution to fruition. That is what's going to grow trust. That is what's going to keep that leader bought in that their solution is going to make a difference. Now, it is okay if that solution fails a week from now. That's okay. It's actually probably better, because what happens is they tried something, it failed, and now you know not to try that same thing again. Now you can say, hey, that didn't work. What can we do differently? Or I noticed that didn't really solve the problem the way we wanted it to. What can we try this week? And now we are in problem solving mode with another human being, which is modeling for them that we can solve problems. We can own our actions and change the result. And that is what we do as leaders. That is how we build people up. And that is how we see change for good, by having conversations about problems and solutions, by putting actions in place to change or eliminate or mitigate the problem so that we can see a positive result and people can be excited to be in an environment where they are solving problems, where their ideas matter, and they can grow in the belief that when they take action, they will see a different result. Can you tell I get fired up about problem solving? I think I've shared this with so many of you, but in the world of education, we used to talk about problems and then talk about problems and then talk quietly in our classrooms about problems, and then we'd talk about them at staff meetings, and then we'd talk about them to the board, then we'd talk about them and talk about them and talk about them. And we would not solve them because we were so emotionally connected to the problem. So it has been such a pleasure and such a joy to help schools and admin and companies solve problems quickly. And that is exactly what you can do when you lean into being a leader that solves problems, being a leader that investigates what is truly at the heart of a problem, what is the actual problem, and then takes actions to solve it, to build others up and build the belief that this solution is going to be what minimizes that problem. And then you get to celebrate with those people when it works. And what if it works? What if you start problem solving? What if you start having conversations like this with other people and it empowers them to have similar problem solving conversations with other people? And what if it slowly starts to shift your culture from being stuck and complaining and the victim of the problem to everybody moving through the problems? They're still going to show up. You're still going to have them every single day. That is business. That is life. That is what we run into as humans. But if we can move into that area where people are confident in solving problems, they actually enjoy it, they want to see a solution and they want to see a better result, imagine what that would be like. What if that worked? What would your whole office, your whole department, your whole company feel like if everyone was bought in that them taking actions equals them getting a positive result? I promise you, by you leading in this way, by you modeling problem solving in an effective and a respectful way, you are going to see it from your team. Now, if you are doubting me and you are local, you are going to want to make sure today to sign up for our problem solving Lead with Impact session 3. It is happening tomorrow on Thursday, May 2nd, but you can still get registered on May 1st. There will be a link in the show notes that you can quickly click and get in on that event. It takes place in New Ulm. 8 a.m. is breakfast, 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. is our problem solving 2-hour session. Remember, these sessions are super interactive. You are able to apply the strategies and the techniques that you are learning during the Lead with Impact session directly to your own work. Then you are able to speak and engage with others and practice that new technique so that when you get back to the office that day, you can utilize that technique with confidence with your team. Now, if you are thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I wish I lived closer to New Ulm, Minnesota, there is a way for me and you to work together. You can bring myself in and have an impact presentation for your team or your community. Right now, I am working with the New Ulm Chamber of Commerce to do this Lead with Impact series. If you have a Chamber of Commerce that truly believes in growing business and the skills that businesses have, I would highly encourage you to reach out to myself to get connected to the Lead with Impact program. We have 4 sessions that we're doing in New Ulm. We've done 3 sessions before. We've done monthly sessions before. It is really up to you to create this, but to bring in leaders within business or leaders within your company and get them all on the same page and creating environments where people can thrive. That is the mission over here at Impact Influence. And I truly hope that that is what people are walking away with. Jump on over to the Facebook page, Impact Influence. You're going to see testimonials from the last 2 sessions going into session 3. Next week, we'll have session 3 testimonials up there. But let me tell you, everyone is saying it is fast-paced, high energy, tons of engagement, lots of application, and an opportunity to connect with other business leaders who aren't in your place of work. And so you can talk openly and honestly about the problems that you're running into. So if you have not gotten registered for May 2nd, do that. If you are local, we have another one on May 18th, which is all about utilizing and synergizing your team's strengths. And so if you have a team that you are leading, you are going to want to get into the May 16th event as well. That one is just like the others, high energy, fast paced, applicable to you and your team. You're going to be able to really think through what your team's strengths are and then how you can utilize that to move momentum forward and jumpstart your team toward success. I am so excited for these events. I absolutely feel the power when at an in-person training. And so if you are interested, you can go to anvote.com/impact, or you can go to anvote.com/contact if you want to message me and get connected to what I can offer you. You can also just shoot me an email at any time, impact@anvote.com. I am always here to help you create a shift at work and continue to inspire others and change lives. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a member of the Impact community and truly positively impacting others around you. You don't even know the work that you are doing by showing up and engaging with others in the positive way that you are. Keep it up.